What if the key to true power lies not in what happens to you, but in how you respond? Think about it. So much of life is outside of our control, from the opinions of others to the unexpected challenges that come our way. But what if the real measure of strength isn't about avoiding these things, but about mastering how we react to them? This is where the Stoic philosophy shines, offering a timeless truth. Being hard to offend is not just a virtue, it's a superpower. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic thinkers, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." And that's exactly what we're diving into today. In a world where so many things can feel personal, where criticism and conflict seem to lurk around every corner, the ability to remain unshaken is the ultimate form of freedom. In this video, we'll explore the Stoic principles of emotional resilience, cognitive detachment, and inner freedom tools that can help you navigate life's challenges with calm and confidence. By the end, you'll see why being hard to offend isn't about ignoring your feelings, but about reclaiming your power. So, let's begin this journey together and discover how you can transform the way you respond to the world around you. Stoicism teaches that offense is a choice, not an inevitability. This might sound counterintuitive at first, especially in a world where it often feels like we're constantly being provoked or insulted. But the Stoics had a radically different perspective. They believed that offense isn't something that happens to us, it's something we create through our own judgments. Think about it. When someone says something that upsets you, it's not their words that hurt. It's your interpretation of those words, the meaning you assign to them, that stirs up feelings of anger or frustration. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it simply, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." He taught that we can't control what others say or do, but we always have control over how we respond. This is the core of Stoic philosophy, recognizing the power we have over our own minds, even when the world feels chaotic or unfair. Let's bring this into a modern context. Imagine you're at work and a colleague criticizes your project in front of the team. Your first instinct might be to feel attacked, maybe even humiliated. But according to the Stoics, that reaction isn't automatic, it's a choice. You could just as easily choose to see their criticism as feedback, an opportunity to improve, or even as a reflection of their own insecurities rather than a personal attack. The key is to pause, step back, and ask yourself, is this worth my emotional energy? Does their opinion truly define me? This isn't about suppressing your feelings or pretending nothing bothers you. It's about understanding that offense is a mental habit, one that can be broken with practice. The more you train yourself to question your initial reactions, the less power external events will have over your inner peace. So think about this. When was the last time you chose to take offense? And what could you have done differently? What if you could observe insults or criticism without letting them define you? This is the essence of cognitive detachment, a powerful Stoic practice that allows you to separate external events from your internal judgments. Think of it as creating a mental space between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. As Seneca once said, anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. Anger, resentment, or hurt feelings often arise not from the event itself, but from the meaning we attach to it. By practicing cognitive detachment, you reclaim the power to decide what deserves your emotional energy. Imagine scrolling through social media and encountering a harsh comment about something you've shared. Instead of feeling attacked or defensive, you pause and ask yourself, is this comment within my control? Does it truly reflect who I am? By detaching from the emotional charge, you can respond or choose not to with clarity and intention. This isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about understanding that you have the choice to not let others' words dictate your peace of mind. So, how might your life change if you stopped taking things personally? When you stop allowing external events to dictate your internal state, you gain a profound sense of freedom. You become less reactive and more deliberate in your actions, focusing on what truly matters. This shift doesn't just protect your mental well-being, it empowers you to navigate life's challenges with resilience and grace. Imagine Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most revered Stoic philosophers, sitting in his study, penning his private thoughts. At the height of his power as Roman emperor, he faced betrayal from those closest to him, people he trusted, who sought to undermine his rule. Yet, in his writings, there's no trace of anger or despair. Instead, he reflects on the importance of maintaining his composure, of not allowing external events to disturb his inner peace. This is the essence of emotional resilience, a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. Emotional resilience is the ability to remain steady, grounded, and composed even when life throws its hardest challenges at us. It's not about suppressing emotions or pretending everything is fine. Rather, it's about acknowledging the difficulty while refusing to let it dictate our state of mind. The Stoics believed that true strength lies in our ability to respond to adversity with clarity and grace, rather than being swept away by anger, fear, or bitterness. So how do Stoics cultivate this kind of resilience? It starts with a simple but profound shift in focus, directing our energy toward what we can control and letting go of what we cannot. Epictetus, another towering figure in Stoicism, put it this way: "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This idea is a guiding light for anyone seeking to build emotional resilience. When we stop trying to control the uncontrollable, other people's actions, unexpected setbacks, or even the past, we free ourselves from unnecessary suffering. Instead, we focus on our own thoughts, choices, and responses, which are always within our power. Think about a modern-day scenario like navigating a toxic relationship. You can't control how the other person behaves or what they say, but you can control how you respond. You can choose to set boundaries, to walk away from negativity, and to protect your peace. This doesn't mean the situation isn't painful or challenging. It often is. But resilience means recognizing that your power lies in how you handle it, not in trying to change what's beyond your control. So, what challenges in your own life could you face with greater resilience today? Maybe it's a difficult conversation at work, a personal setback, or even the daily frustrations that seem to pile up. The Stoic approach invites us to pause, to reflect, and to ask ourselves, what's within my control here? By focusing on that question, we not only build emotional resilience, we reclaim our power to navigate life's storms with a sense of calm and purpose. Stoics remind us that much of life is beyond our control. It's a simple truth, but one that's easy to forget in the heat of the moment. Think about it. How often do we exhaust ourselves trying to manage how others see us or what they think? The irony is, no matter how much energy we pour into shaping opinions or influencing actions, we're often left frustrated because those things were never ours to control in the first place. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, put it plainly: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Take something as common as gossip, for example. When someone spreads rumors about you, it's natural to feel hurt or even angry. You might be tempted to confront the person, defend yourself, or try to change their mind. But here's the thing: what they say or think about you isn't something you can control. Their words and actions are theirs, not yours. The Stoic approach. Focus on what you can control: your response, your character, and how you choose to move forward. By letting go of the need to control the uncontrollable, you free yourself from unnecessary stress and regain your power. So, what about you? What situations do you find yourself trying to control, even though they're ultimately out of your hands? Maybe it's a family member's decisions, a co-worker's attitude, or even the weather delaying your plans. The truth is, life is filled with variables we can't dictate, and that's okay. The Stoics teach us that real strength comes from accepting this reality, not fighting against it. When we stop trying to control the uncontrollable, we open ourselves up to a deeper sense of peace and resilience. How often do you assume the worst about others' intentions? It's a question worth asking because more often than not, we let our emotions fill in the blanks instead of seeing the situation for what it really is. Stoicism teaches us to step back and examine our assumptions before reacting. The Stoics believed that most offenses arise not from malice but from misunderstanding or ignorance. Seneca once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." In other words, what we perceive as a slight or insult is often just a misinterpretation of someone's actions or words. Think about a time when a friend made an offhand comment that rubbed you the wrong way. Maybe they said something you took as criticism, but in reality, they were just having a bad day or didn't realize how their words might land. If you react immediately, you risk creating unnecessary tension. But if you pause and consider their perspective, what they might have been going through or what they truly meant, you can often diffuse the situation before it escalates. This shift in perspective doesn't just protect your peace, it also strengthens your relationships. The key here is to recognize that our initial reactions are often colored by our own biases and insecurities. By questioning those assumptions, we give ourselves the space to respond with clarity rather than react with emotion. So, what assumptions do you make that might be clouding your judgment? Taking the time to reflect on this can transform how you interact with the world and how you protect your own sense of calm in the process. True freedom comes from mastering your inner world. This is the essence of inner sovereignty, a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. Inner sovereignty is about self-mastery, the ability to govern your thoughts, emotions, and reactions, no matter what's happening around you. As Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Think about that for a moment. Freedom isn't about external circumstances, it's about how you choose to respond to them. Picture this, you're in the middle of a heated argument. Voices are raised, emotions are running high, and it feels like the room is closing in. Most people would react instinctively, letting their anger or frustration take over. But what if instead you paused? What if you chose to remain calm, not because you don't care, but because you refuse to let the situation control you? That's inner sovereignty in action. It's the quiet power of knowing that your peace isn't determined by others' words or actions. Now ask yourself, how would your life change if you stopped letting others dictate your emotions? Imagine the freedom of not being swayed by every criticism, every insult, or every moment of chaos. This isn't about suppressing your feelings or pretending everything is fine. It's about understanding that your emotional well-being is your responsibility, not someone else's. When you embrace this mindset, you become untouchable in the best possible way, not because you're indifferent, but because you've claimed ownership of your inner world. This kind of self-mastery doesn't happen overnight, but every step you take toward it is a step toward true freedom. And the beauty of it, no one can take that freedom away from you. It's yours to keep, no matter what life throws your way. What if you could prepare for offense before it even happens? What if, instead of being caught off guard by criticism or harsh words, you were already equipped to handle it with calm and clarity? This is the essence of the Stoic practice called Premeditatio Malorum, a Latin term that translates to the premeditation of evils. It's not about dwelling on negativity, but about anticipating challenges so you can build resilience and face them with strength. As Seneca once wrote, he robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand. In other words, by preparing for adversity, you strip it of its ability to shock or derail you. Imagine this, you're about to present a project at work, and you know there's a colleague who tends to be overly critical. Instead of dreading their comments or letting them ruin your confidence, you take a moment to mentally rehearse how you might respond. You imagine them questioning your ideas, and you picture yourself calmly acknowledging their feedback without defensiveness. By doing this, you're not just preparing for the worst, you're training your mind to stay steady no matter what comes your way. This is Premeditatio Malorum in action. It's about turning potential sources of offense into opportunities for growth. So, what situations in your life could benefit from this kind of preparation? Maybe it's a difficult conversation with a loved one, or perhaps it's the possibility of rejection in a creative pursuit. By thinking ahead and visualizing how you'll handle these moments, you're not just avoiding offense, you're cultivating a mindset that's unshakable. And that's where true power lies. When you've already considered the challenges, they lose their sting, and you gain the freedom to respond with intention rather than react with emotion. Holding onto offense only harms you. Think about it when you cling to anger or resentment. Who does it really affect? Not the person who wronged you, but you. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, holding onto anger doesn't punish the other person. It only chains you to the very thing you're upset about. Let's bring this to life with an example. Imagine a colleague snaps at you during a meeting, saying something harsh or unfair. It stings, and your first instinct might be to hold onto that pain, to let it simmer. But here's the thing, every moment you spend replaying their words in your head, you're giving them power over your peace of mind. Instead, what if you chose to let it go? Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to be free from the weight of that resentment. Forgiveness, in this sense, isn't about excusing their behavior, it's about reclaiming your own emotional freedom. So, what grudges are you holding onto that are weighing you down? Maybe it's a comment from a friend, a misunderstanding with a loved one, or even a mistake you made yourself. Whatever it is, ask yourself, is holding onto this serving you, or is it holding you back? The Stoic art of letting go isn't about pretending the hurt never happened. It's about choosing not to let that hurt define your present or your future. It's about stepping into your power by refusing to let someone else's actions or your own past control how you feel right now. What if the strongest response to offense is no response at all? For the Stoics, silence wasn't just the absence of words, it was a deliberate act of strength. It's about choosing not to engage, not because you're afraid or unsure, but because you've decided that your peace is more valuable than proving a point. Epictetus once said, "Silence is a lesson learned from the many sufferings of life." In other words, restraint isn't weakness, it's wisdom born from experience. Think about how often we feel compelled to react when someone says something hurtful or provocative. Maybe it's a rude comment online or a snide remark in person. Our instinct is to fire back, to defend ourselves, to make sure the other person knows they're wrong. But what if, instead of fueling the conflict, we simply let it pass? What if we refuse to give their words power over us? That's the Stoic approach. By choosing silence, you take control of the situation. You decide what matters and what doesn't. You show that their words can't shake your inner calm. Consider this. Have you ever responded to an insult in anger, only to regret it later? Maybe the argument escalated, or you said something you didn't mean. Silence in those moments could have been your greatest ally. It's not about avoiding confrontation, it's about choosing battles wisely. When you remain silent, you give yourself space to think, to reflect, and to act from a place of clarity rather than emotion. So, the next time you feel the urge to react, pause. Ask yourself, what would silence achieve here? Sometimes the most powerful statement is the one you don't make. Offense often stems from an inflated ego. Think about it: when someone says or does something that upsets us, it's rarely about the action itself. It's about how that action makes us feel about ourselves. The Stoics saw ego as one of the greatest barriers to true peace and power. Seneca, the Roman Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." But delay isn't just about waiting, it's about stepping back and asking yourself, why does this bother me so much? The answer, more often than not, points back to ego. Take something as simple as a missed invitation. Maybe a friend didn't invite you to a gathering and you immediately feel slighted. Your mind races, am I not important enough? Did they forget about me? But here's the thing, what if it had nothing to do with you at all? What if they were preoccupied, or maybe it was an oversight? The Stoics would challenge you to separate your sense of self-worth from external events. Your worth isn't determined by whether someone invites you to a party or not. That's your ego talking, not your true self. So how might your ego be shaping your reactions to others? When you feel offended, pause, ask yourself, is this about them or is this about me? The Stoics believed that humility, true humility, was the antidote to an overactive ego. It's not about thinking less of yourself, it's about thinking of yourself less. When you let go of the need to be validated by others, you reclaim your power. You become harder to offend because you stop giving others control over your emotions. And that, in itself, is a form of strength. How well do you understand your own triggers? It's a question worth asking, because self-awareness is the foundation of emotional resilience. When you truly know yourself, you begin to see how your mind works, what sets you off, what makes you defensive, and why certain words or actions feel like personal attacks. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you ever dig." This isn't just philosophical wisdom, it's practical advice for anyone looking to live with more peace and less reactivity. Self-awareness allows you to step back and observe your emotions without being consumed by them. Imagine this: you're in a conversation, and someone says something that immediately makes your chest tighten. Instead of lashing out or shutting down, you pause, you notice the physical reaction, the surge of defensiveness, and you ask yourself, why does this bother me so much? Maybe it's because it touches on an insecurity, or perhaps it reminds you of a past hurt. Whatever the reason, that moment of reflection gives you the power to choose how you respond. Take, for example, a situation where someone criticizes your work. If you're not self-aware, you might instantly feel attacked and react with anger or defensiveness. But if you've taken the time to understand your triggers, you might recognize that this reaction stems from a deeper fear of inadequacy. Once you see that, the criticism loses its sting. It's no longer about you, it's just feedback, and you can decide what to do with it. So, what situations tend to trigger you and why? Is it a tone of voice, a specific topic, or a particular type of comment? The more you explore these patterns, the more control you'll have over your emotional responses. Self-awareness doesn't mean you'll never feel hurt or offended, it means you'll understand why, and that understanding gives you the clarity to rise above it. Stoics embrace everything that happens, even offense. This mindset is rooted in a powerful concept called Amafati, or the love of fate. At its core, Amafati is about accepting and even cherishing every event in your life, whether it's a moment of joy or a moment of pain. It's not about pretending everything is perfect, but about seeing every experience as an opportunity for growth. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's great teachers, put it simply: do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happens the way it happens, then you will be happy. Think about a moment when someone said something that offended you. Maybe it was a harsh comment or a criticism that stung. Instead of reacting defensively or letting it fester, what if you saw it as a chance to reflect? What if you used that moment to ask yourself, why did this bother me? Is there truth in what was said? Could this help me improve? By embracing the offense, you shift from being a passive recipient of life's challenges to an active participant in your own growth. Imagine a difficult conversation where tensions rise and words are exchanged. Instead of walking away defeated or resentful, you choose to see it as a lesson. Perhaps it reveals a blind spot in how you communicate or highlights a value you hold deeply. Even the most uncomfortable moments can become stepping stones to a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. So, how could embracing offense help you grow? It's not about ignoring your feelings or pretending the sting doesn't exist. It's about stepping back, understanding the bigger picture, and asking what you can learn from it. When you start to see every challenge, even the ones that feel like personal attacks, as part of your journey, you unlock a kind of power that's hard to shake. That's the essence of Amafati, finding strength not in spite of what happens, but because of it. What if those who offend you are struggling too? It's easy to see someone's harsh words or actions as a personal attack, but Stoicism invites us to pause and consider what might be driving their behavior. Seneca once wrote, "We are all born under the same conditions, and we are all equally subject to the same misfortunes." This reminder of shared human frailty is at the heart of Stoic compassion. Instead of reacting with anger or defensiveness, Stoics choose to respond with understanding, recognizing that everyone carries their own burdens. Take a moment to imagine this scenario. You're at a coffee shop, and a stranger snaps at you for no apparent reason. Your first instinct might be to snap back or feel hurt. But what if that person is dealing with a heavy loss, a stressful day, or even just a bad night's sleep? When we shift our perspective to see their actions as a reflection of their inner struggles, it becomes easier to respond with kindness rather than resentment. This doesn't mean excusing harmful behavior, but it does mean refusing to let their negativity dictate our own. Compassion, in this sense, becomes a form of strength, a way to rise above the immediate sting of offense and maintain our inner peace. It's not about letting others walk all over us, it's about choosing not to be dragged into their chaos. So, how could compassion change the way you respond to offense? What might shift in your relationships or even within yourself if you approached conflict with this understanding? Stoics care more about their character than their reputation. It's a bold stance, especially in a world where likes, comments, and public perception often feel like the ultimate measure of success. But here's the thing, when you tie your self-worth to what others think of you, you hand over control of your emotions to people who may not even understand you. External validation is fleeting, and chasing it only makes you vulnerable to disappointment and frustration. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Think about that for a moment. We're so quick to prioritize what others say about us, even when their opinions have no real bearing on who we are or what we're capable of. The truth is, most people's judgments are shaped by their own biases, insecurities, and limited perspectives. Why let something so unstable define your sense of worth? Take online trolls, for example. These are people who thrive on negativity, often hiding behind anonymity to spread harsh or baseless criticism. If you've ever been on the receiving end of their comments, you know how easy it is to feel hurt or defensive. But here's the Stoic approach. Recognize that their words say far more about them than they do about you. By refusing to engage or internalize their negativity, you reclaim your power. You choose to focus on what truly matters: your integrity, your values, and the actions you take to live in alignment with them. So let's pause and reflect. How much of your self-worth is tied to others' opinions? Do you find yourself constantly seeking approval or worrying about how you're perceived? If so, it might be time to reassess. The Stoics remind us that reputation is not within our control. What others think of us will always be influenced by factors beyond our reach, but our character, that's entirely ours to shape. When you shift your focus inward toward being the best version of yourself, you build a foundation of strength that no amount of external judgment can shake. What if remembering death could free you from offense? It might sound counterintuitive, but the Stoic practice of Memento Mori, Latin for remember you must die, is a powerful tool for gaining perspective. By reflecting on the inevitability of death, Stoics believed we could strip away the trivialities that often consume us and focus on what truly matters. Seneca once wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." This isn't meant to be morbid, it's a call to clarity. When we recognize how fleeting life is, the small slights, the petty grievances, the things that offend us, they start to lose their grip. Imagine someone cut you off in traffic. In the moment, it feels infuriating, but if you pause and remind yourself of life's impermanence, does that frustration still hold the same weight? Probably not. This is the essence of Memento Mori. It recalibrates our priorities. It reminds us that time is our most precious resource, and wasting it on anger or offense is a luxury we can't afford. Think about it. How would your priorities shift if you truly remembered life's impermanence? Would you still hold onto grudges, or would you choose to let them go? Would you spend your energy on things that don't serve you, or would you focus on what brings meaning and joy? The practice of Memento Mori isn't about living in fear of death. It's about living fully in the awareness of life. It's a reminder that every moment is a gift, and how we choose to use it is entirely up to us. Stoics train themselves to respond, not react. This distinction is at the heart of their philosophy and is one of the most practical tools they offer for navigating life's challenges. Reacting is impulsive, emotional, and often driven by external events. Responding, on the other hand, is deliberate, thoughtful, and rooted in reason. It's the difference between being swept away by a wave and choosing how to swim through it. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's greatest teachers, put it this way: "No one is free who is not master of themselves." Mastering your impulses means pausing before you act, creating space between what happens to you and how you choose to engage with it. It's about reclaiming control over your emotions rather than letting them control you. Think about the last time someone said or did something that upset you. Did you lash out, defend yourself, or shut down? Or did you take a moment to breathe, assess the situation, and then decide how to proceed? These moments might seem small, but they're where the power of non-reactivity truly shines. For example, imagine you're in a heated argument. Instead of raising your voice or firing back with a cutting remark, you pause. You take a step back, not physically but mentally, and ask yourself, is this worth my energy? What outcome do I truly want here? That pause, that moment of reflection, is where you exercise your power. How often do you react without thinking, and what could you do differently? Stoicism doesn't ask you to suppress your emotions or pretend you're unaffected by the world. It simply invites you to take ownership of how you express those emotions. When you respond instead of react, you're no longer at the mercy of external events. You become the calm in the storm, the one who decides how the story unfolds. What if gratitude could act as a shield, protecting you from the sting of offense? The Stoics believed that gratitude is one of the most powerful tools we have to reframe our perspective and focus on what truly matters. By shifting our attention to what we already have, rather than what we lack or what others might say, we build a mental fortress that offense simply cannot penetrate. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This simple yet profound idea reminds us that life itself is a gift, and when we anchor ourselves in that truth, the small slights and criticisms of others lose their power. Imagine this: you're at work and a colleague criticizes your project in front of the team. It stings, of course, but instead of letting that criticism consume you, you pause and reflect on all the things you're grateful for: your skills, your resilience, the support of other teammates, even the opportunity to grow from the feedback. Suddenly, the offense feels smaller, almost insignificant compared to the abundance of good in your life. Gratitude doesn't erase the challenge, but it gives you the strength to rise above it. So, let's take a moment to reflect. What are you grateful for that outweighs the offense you feel? Is it the love of your family, the progress you've made, or the simple joys of everyday life? When you focus on these things, you'll find that offense has far less room to take root. Gratitude isn't just a feeling, it's a practice, a way of seeing the world that transforms how you respond to it. And in that transformation lies a profound kind of power. Stoics see adversity as an opportunity for growth, not as a setback. It's a mindset that flips the script on how we perceive challenges. When someone offends you, it's easy to feel hurt or defensive, but the Stoics would argue that even these moments hold value. They teach us something about ourselves, our triggers, our vulnerabilities, and our capacity for resilience. As Seneca once said, difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. In other words, the friction of offense can sharpen your character, much like a blade is honed against a whetstone. Think about the last time someone criticized you harshly. Maybe it stung at first, but did you later find truth in their words? Perhaps it revealed a blind spot or an area where you could improve. This is the Stoic approach to adversity, viewing it not as an attack but as a lesson. The next time you feel offended, instead of reacting impulsively, take a step back. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I use this experience to grow? The beauty of this perspective is that it gives you power. You're no longer at the mercy of someone else's words or actions. Instead, you're in control of how you interpret and respond to them. Adversity becomes a teacher, and offense becomes a tool for self-mastery. So, the next time you're faced with a harsh critique or a cutting remark, remember, it's not about what's being said to you, it's about what you choose to take from it. What lessons could you uncover if you approached offense with curiosity rather than defensiveness? How could writing help you process offense? The Stoics believed that journaling was a powerful tool for self-reflection and emotional clarity. By putting your thoughts and feelings onto paper, you create space to step back and observe them objectively, rather than being swept away by their intensity. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, emphasized this practice in his personal writings, saying, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you ever dig." This act of digging, of examining your emotions and reactions, allows you to uncover the root of what truly bothers you and why. Imagine this scenario: you've just had a tense conversation with a colleague. They made a comment that felt dismissive, and now you're stewing in frustration. Instead of letting that frustration fester, you sit down and write about the interaction. You describe what happened, how it made you feel, and why it struck a nerve. As you write, you might notice patterns. Perhaps the comment reminded you of a past experience or touched on a deeper insecurity. By the time you finish, the sting of the offense might feel less personal, more like a puzzle to solve rather than a wound to nurse. What insights could you gain by writing about your feelings? Journaling isn't about dwelling on negativity, it's about understanding it. When you take the time to reflect, you start to see that most offenses are less about the other person and more about your own perceptions and expectations. This clarity doesn't just help you let go, it empowers you to respond with intention rather than react with emotion. And over time, this practice builds a kind of mental resilience, a quiet strength that makes you harder to offend because you've learned to see beyond the surface of what upsets you. Stoics remind us that time is too precious to waste on offense. Every moment spent nursing a grudge or stewing over a slight is a moment stolen from what truly matters. Think about it. How much of your day, your week, or even your life could be reclaimed if you stopped letting offense dictate your focus? The ancient philosopher Seneca put it best when he said, "It is not that we have so little time, but that we lose so much of it." Time once gone is gone forever, and yet so often we let it slip through our fingers, consumed by trivial grievances that do nothing to move us forward. Take, for instance, a petty argument. Maybe someone cuts you off in traffic or makes a snide comment at work. It's easy to let that moment spiral into hours of frustration, replaying the incident in your mind, imagining what you could have said or done differently. But ask yourself, what does that accomplish? Does it change the past? Does it make you happier or more productive? Or does it simply drain your energy and distract you from what truly deserves your attention? The Stoic approach is simple but profound. Let go. Not because the offense doesn't matter, but because your time matters more. Imagine what you could achieve if you redirected that energy into something meaningful, whether it's pursuing a passion, strengthening a relationship, or working toward a goal. What could your life look like if you stopped giving offense so much power over your time and attention? The choice is yours, but remember, every moment spent dwelling on offense is a moment you'll never get back. So, what will you choose to do with yours? What if laughter could disarm offense? It might seem counterintuitive, but humor is one of the most powerful tools in the Stoic toolkit for navigating life's challenges. The Stoics believed that taking things too seriously often leads to unnecessary suffering. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, don't let the opinions or actions of others weigh you down. Instead, use humor as a shield to deflect negativity and maintain your inner peace. Think about it. When someone makes a sarcastic comment or tries to provoke you, what happens if you respond with a genuine laugh? The tension dissolves. The person trying to offend you suddenly loses their power. Humor doesn't mean dismissing the situation or ignoring your feelings. It's about refusing to let someone else's negativity control your emotional state. For example, imagine someone makes a snide remark about your work. Instead of firing back or stewing in frustration, you chuckle and say, "Well, I guess I'll have to try harder next time." This not only disarms the other person, but also keeps you grounded. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, and our reactions are always within our power. By choosing to respond with humor, we take control of the situation rather than letting it control us. It's a subtle but profound way to reclaim your agency. So, how could humor help you handle offense more gracefully? What might it look like to meet life's little irritations with a smile instead of a scowl? Stoics teach us to live in the present moment. It's a bold, transformative idea, but one that holds immense power when it comes to how we respond to offense. Marcus Aurelius, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." At first glance, it might sound simple, but this principle is a cornerstone of Stoic mindfulness, a practice that helps us avoid being swept away by emotions like anger, frustration, or the urge to retaliate when someone offends us. By focusing on the now, we strip away the layers of judgment, past resentments, and future anxieties that often cloud our reactions. Think about it. When someone says or does something that feels offensive, our first instinct is often to react emotionally. But what if, instead of spiraling into those feelings, we paused and brought our attention fully to the present moment? Mindfulness, in the Stoic sense, isn't about ignoring what's happening around us. It's about observing it without judgment. It's about recognizing that the offense itself is external, and how we choose to respond is entirely within our control. Take a heated discussion, for example. Imagine you're in the middle of an argument and the other person says something that feels like a personal attack. Instead of immediately firing back or letting your emotions take over, what if you took a breath and focused on the present, what's actually happening in this exact moment? You're exchanging words, yes, but the sting you feel isn't coming from the words themselves, it's coming from how you're interpreting them. By staying present, you create a small but powerful gap between the offense and your reaction, giving yourself the space to respond with clarity rather than impulsivity. So, how could mindfulness help you respond to offense more calmly? It starts with training your mind to anchor itself in the here and now. The next time you feel provoked, try this. Pause, take a deep breath and ask yourself, what's happening right now without my judgments or assumptions? You might find that what felt like a personal attack loses its power when you strip it of the emotional weight you've assigned to it. This is the Stoic practice of mindfulness, not just as a tool for inner peace, but as a way to reclaim your power in every interaction. What if accepting reality could free you from offense? The Stoics believed that much of our suffering comes not from the events themselves, but from our resistance to them. When we fight against what we cannot change, we create unnecessary turmoil within ourselves. But by practicing acceptance, we reclaim our power. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it this way: it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This simple yet profound idea invites us to embrace life as it is, not as we wish it to be. Think about a situation where someone gives you harsh feedback at work. Your first reaction might be to feel defensive, maybe even offended. But what if, instead of resisting, you paused and accepted the feedback as it is? Not as an attack, but as information. By doing this, you take control of your response. You don't let the sting of the words dictate your emotions. Instead, you choose to see it as an opportunity to grow, or at the very least, to understand another perspective. This kind of acceptance doesn't mean you agree with everything or stop striving for improvement. It simply means you stop wasting energy on what you can't control. So, what situations in your life could you approach with acceptance instead of resistance? Maybe it's a frustrating commute, a difficult conversation, or even a personal failure. When you stop fighting reality, you open the door to peace, and that's where true power lies. Stoics believe in responding to offense with fairness, not with anger or retaliation. At the heart of this philosophy is a deep commitment to justice, a principle that transcends personal grievances. For the Stoics, justice isn't about evening the score or proving a point. It's about maintaining integrity and treating others with respect, even when they wrong us. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, once said, "A great man is always willing to be little." What he meant was that true strength lies in humility, in choosing fairness over pride or vengeance. Picture this: someone insults you publicly, and the immediate impulse might be to fire back to defend your honor. But what if instead you paused and asked yourself, what does justice demand here? Justice in this context might mean addressing the situation calmly without escalating the conflict. It could mean seeking to understand why the other person acted the way they did, rather than assuming malice. This approach doesn't just resolve the immediate issue, it builds a foundation of respect and trust, even in difficult moments. Think about how this applies to your own life. When someone offends you, do you default to fairness, or do you let emotions take the wheel? How could justice guide your response to offense? It's not about being passive or ignoring wrongdoing. It's about choosing a response that aligns with your values and upholds your sense of self-respect. By prioritizing justice over revenge, you not only rise above the conflict but also set an example of what it means to live with dignity and purpose. How could self-discipline protect you from offense? Think about it. When someone says or does something that feels like a personal jab, your first instinct might be to react. But self-discipline is the Stoic tool that lets you pause, step back, and choose how you respond. It's not about suppressing your emotions, it's about mastering them. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's the heart of self-discipline, recognizing that your reactions are within your control, even when the world around you feels chaotic. Picture this: someone insults you in a heated moment. The easy path is to fire back, to let anger take the wheel. But with self-discipline, you can resist that urge. You can take a breath, assess the situation, and decide whether the insult truly matters. Often, it doesn't. The Stoics believed that most offenses are trivial, and reacting to them only gives them power over you. Self-discipline helps you see that clearly. It's like building a mental shield, one that deflects the petty distractions and keeps you focused on what truly matters. So, where in your life could you use more self-discipline? Is it in how you respond to criticism, or maybe in how you handle frustration when things don't go your way? The beauty of this practice is that it's not just about avoiding offense, it's about building a stronger, more resilient version of yourself. And that's a power no one can take from you. True freedom comes from within. This is a core belief in Stoicism. The Stoics taught that real freedom isn't about controlling what happens around us, but about mastering our own reactions to it. They believed that external events, whether praise, criticism, or even outright attacks, have no power over us unless we give them that power. As Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Inner freedom, then, is the ability to remain calm and unshaken, no matter what life throws at us. Think about it this way. Imagine someone criticizes you harshly. If your sense of worth depends on their opinion, their words will hit hard. But if you've cultivated inner freedom, their criticism becomes just noise, a passing event that doesn't define you. It's not about ignoring what's said, but about recognizing that your value isn't tied to someone else's judgment. This is the Stoic view of freedom, liberation from the need for approval, validation, or control over things outside yourself. So, how could this kind of inner freedom change the way you experience offense? If you're no longer reliant on external validation, the sting of criticism fades. You're free to respond thoughtfully rather than react emotionally. Offense loses its grip because you've anchored your sense of self in something unshakable, your own principles and inner strength. This isn't about becoming indifferent to the world, but about choosing where to place your focus and energy. When you're truly free within, the world can't easily rattle you, and that's a kind of power no one can take away. How could Stoic principles strengthen your relationships? At first glance, Stoicism might seem like a solitary practice, focused on inner resilience and self-mastery. But dig a little deeper, and you'll find that Stoicism places immense value on community and the bonds we share with others. The Stoics believed that humans are inherently social creatures, designed to thrive in connection with one another. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving." The process is mutual, for people learn while they teach. This idea of mutual growth and support is at the heart of Stoic relationships. Think about it: when conflicts arise, as they inevitably do, Stoic principles can guide us toward resolution with empathy and understanding. Instead of reacting with anger or defensiveness, we can pause, reflect, and respond with clarity. For example, if someone says something hurtful, a Stoic approach would be to consider their perspective. What might they be going through? What insecurities or fears could be driving their behavior? By choosing empathy over judgment, we not only diffuse tension but also deepen our connections. This isn't about ignoring our own feelings or letting others walk all over us. It's about recognizing that everyone is fighting their own battles, and extending compassion is a way to build stronger, more meaningful relationships. Imagine how different your interactions might be if you approached every conversation with this mindset. How could Stoic principles improve the way you connect with the people in your life? Stoics end each day with reflection. This simple yet profound practice is more than just a habit. It's a tool for self-mastery. By taking time to review the events of the day, we create space to process emotions, especially those tied to offense or frustration. It's not about dwelling on what went wrong, but about learning and growing from every experience. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "When you have trouble getting out of bed in the morning, remember that your defining characteristic, what defines a human being, is to work with others." Even animals know how to sleep, so what's the point of getting up to fulfill your purpose? And part of that purpose is to reflect, to understand, and to improve. Imagine this: you've had a tough conversation earlier in the day, and it left you feeling upset or misunderstood. Instead of letting those emotions linger, reflection allows you to step back. You might ask yourself, why did that comment bother me so much? Was it the words themselves, or was it my own insecurities? By breaking it down, you gain clarity, and that clarity becomes power. It's not about blaming yourself or others, it's about understanding the situation and your reaction to it. Daily reflection also helps you identify patterns. Maybe you notice that certain situations consistently trigger you, or perhaps you realize that your expectations of others are often unrealistic. These insights are gifts. They show you where you can grow, where you can let go, and where you can strengthen your resilience. So, what could you learn by reflecting on your day? Even if it's just 5 minutes before bed, this practice can transform how you approach challenges. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. Each night offers a chance to pause, to observe, and to move forward a little wiser than you were before. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? This question might feel weighty, but for the Stoics, it's a guiding principle for how we live each day. They believed that our true legacy isn't built on fame, wealth, or even the opinions others have of us. Instead, it's rooted in the choices we make and the character we cultivate. As Epictetus once said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In other words, your actions, not your intentions or others' perceptions, define who you are and what you leave behind. Think about a moment when someone wronged you. It's easy to react with anger or seek revenge, but what if instead you chose kindness? Stoicism teaches us that every interaction is an opportunity to demonstrate integrity. When you respond with compassion or patience, even in the face of hostility, you're not just diffusing conflict, you're shaping how others will remember you. It's not about being perfect, it's about striving to act in alignment with your values even when it's hard. So, how do you want to be remembered in moments of conflict? When tensions rise and emotions flare, what kind of person do you want to show up as? The Stoics remind us that our legacy isn't written in grand gestures or fleeting achievement. It's etched into the small, everyday decisions that reveal our character. Every choice is a brushstroke on the canvas of your life. What kind of picture are you painting? So, what does it truly mean to be hard to offend? At its core, it's about reclaiming your power. The Stoics taught us that while we can't control what others say or do, we can always control how we respond. This isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending things don't bother us. It's about choosing where to place our energy, choosing not to let external events dictate our inner peace. True strength isn't found in retaliation or anger. It's found in self-mastery, in the quiet confidence that comes from knowing your worth isn't tied to anyone else's opinion. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most renowned Stoic philosophers, put it perfectly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Think about that for a moment. The power to decide whether something offends you or not lies entirely within you. When you embrace this mindset, you unlock a level of inner freedom that no insult or criticism can take away. You stop being a slave to other people's words and start living on your own terms. Now, take a moment to reflect. How often do you let small comments or actions derail your day? How much of your energy is spent reacting to things that, in the grand scheme of life, don't really matter? The Stoic path invites you to let go of that burden. It's not about being indifferent, it's about being deliberate. When you stop giving others the power to offend you, you start living with a sense of calm and clarity that's truly liberating. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a challenge. Think about one situation where you felt offended recently. What would it look like if you approached it with a Stoic mindset? How might you reclaim your power in that moment? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear how these principles resonate with you. And if you found value in this exploration of Stoic wisdom, consider subscribing for more insights on how to live with greater resilience, purpose, and peace. Remember, the ultimate power isn't in controlling the world around you, it's in mastering the world within.